welcome back to State of Play episode 3. You'll notice that my face is a different colour to Rupert. And it's because I play golf and I rub mayonnaise all over my face and didn't put sun cream on.
Brilliant.
So, struggling a little bit.
An oversight, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. A mistake people normally make. I did one as I was hoofing it on, my Hellman suddenly made sun cream. So yeah, we've got a few. I've got my notes on my phone, sorry. So today we're going to talk about games we've played, which for me is Artifact Adventure Gaiden EX, catchy title.
Yeah.
Baobob's Mausoleum Episode 2.
Again, slips off the tongue.
Super Skelemania and Timespinner.
Okay.
And you've
not
got...
Time Splitters, I know.
Not Time Splitters, Timespinner.
Yeah. What have I got? I've been playing 2 games the last couple of weeks. Moonlighter and Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Have you literally just been...
Yeah, I've just been dancing between the two. Get frustrated with one, turn on the other.
Oh, really?
Get frustrated with that, turn on the other.
Speaking of dancing between things, there's a horror film called Dancing with Werewolves, by the way.
Dancing with werewolves?
Yeah, like, what was that? Dances with Wolves, Dances with Werewolves.
Wow, okay,
so,
yeah.
Kevin Costner's not in it.
Well, it's not really a film then, as such, is it?
More of a documentary. So I'll start off with, sorry, let me get my notes up again. So yeah, Artifact Adventure Gaiden EX. I was sent to play on the, it was on the Switch. And initially I've had trouble in the past when I've been sent these games to play and they are, like the mobile ports and there's a massive paywall that's been removed. So it's completely...
So the whole mechanics of the game
mechanics don't work at all. They're just completely broken. I thought it was like that because this is like the 3rd release of it. I think it's what called Gaiden and then Gaiden EX. And the original game had sort of 8-bit top-down Game Boy sort of graphics, monochrome, but this one is more NES styled. And I was surprised by it because when I started playing it, it's a typical sort of you're a hero. You've got a few followers and you have to sort of save the world from this evil. It's pretty generic stuff, but it's set in 2 different time periods, 3 years apart. So you go around the world and you sort of go into the villages and the towns and help people and do battles and stuff. But then you make sort of choices and then the story skips forward 3 years and you can visit those places again and it shows the impact your choices have had. And it's quite funny actually. It's weirdly affecting because there was one where I went to the town and there was a bloke there who said, oh, this town's going to burn, there's a fire coming. So I told everyone to skedaddle into the woods, so they went there when it burst into flames. I went back 3 years later, totally deserted town, and the villagers on the route to the woods were mauled by a pack of dogs.
You could not have predicted that. I wouldn't take that up.
When I walked in and the soldier told me what had happened, I just sort of backed out, like, oh, did it? That's terrible, I'm gone. So that was good, and it's one of those games that looks really basic, really visually basic, but it's got real depth to it.
It's top down.
It's top down, so it's kind of Zelda when you go into all the towns and do the quests and stuff. But when you go into battle, it's really weird. It cuts into this 2D mode, so you just see yourself, and you don't have an attack button. You just kind of have a weapon that kind of points in the direction. You just have to kind of jump into things. It's really basic, but it's really weirdly addictive. And your companions aren't characters that help you in the battle scenes. They're kind of buttons. So they have a certain attack that, like, one will like dash across the screen or one will heal you and stuff. So it's all done off screen. It was really good. I played it for hours and I've still got to finish it, but I was quite surprised by it. It's like someone has managed to get that sort of 8-bit style, but with modern design sensibility. So it doesn't just feel like, oh, you have to play for 2 or 3 hours without the ability to save between battles. I look at you, Shining Force 3.
What is the name of it again?
Artifact Adventure Gaiden EX. It was good. It was good. It was really good.
Awesome. So what else did you play? You played Skelemania as one of the ones on this list.
Yeah, Super Skelemania.
Obviously.
I'm just checking that off. I have to shuffle closer to you, maybe on your lap. We can edit that out if you don't want to do it.
I don't know.
I don't know what
it's got some raw intimacy to it, isn't it?
Yeah, Super Skelemania that was good as well. It was like a little. It's designed to be finished in a single sitting, so it's like an entry-level Metroidvania.
Okay.
So you're literally a skeleton, you bop your head at things to kill them, although the enemies in the game play a really minor part.
Like Dynamite Headdy?
Yeah, so it's probably going to be your favourite game of all time.
Pretty much.
Based on that one thing. But the enemies are kind of tertiary to everything. Were you looking for it?
I was literally looking for Dynamite Headdy.
Oh, it's in
there.
Yeah, well, we'll get it on the shelf next to this.
Thank goodness.
Oddly blank VHS tape.
Thank goodness it's in alphabetical order. That can't take long.
Oh, 15 minutes. I had the blindfold on as well. I was really lucky, actually, thinking back. The chances of that. Yeah, so it was like an entry-level Metroidvania with like sort of pixel graphics, which is fine on the Switch. I played it mostly in dock mode because it's just that kind of game. Chuck it on, and I was getting into it. You unlock different abilities, like sort of like a flip and a double jump and a sort of roll, so you can get into little narrow places. And it's all just about moving forward in the game. There's nothing sort of secondary. It's all just following a path. And I kind of got to the end and thought, oh, that was cool, but although it could have been, it's a good sign that I think it could have been longer, because usually these games run out of steam, and you're kind of, okay, I want this to be over now. But it kind of reminded me of Gato Roboto. Oh yeah. A little bit in that sort of
stripped down,
boom. A really, really cool game. I'm not sure how much it is, but it was. It's a very good entry point for people to get into that sort of genre.
There are some good Metroidvanias out there,
especially on the Switch. It seems to attract them.
Yeah, good stuff. What else? What else have you been up to?
Timespinner was really good. I've had actually been a good week.
Yeah.
Timespinner was. It's basically a kind of love letter to Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Right. And if you're gonna take your cues from a 90s game, that's probably one of the best ones to go for, because the music is amazing. It's got that thing that Japanese games had when CD quality music came out on the PlayStation 1, where it's kind of like an almost synthetic sort of, and sometimes orchestral soundtrack, but with like a neoclassical metal guitar riffing along with it. Good. It's a really late 90s thing that's really cool. So
they probably wouldn't do it nowadays, because you either get sort of
one or the other.
Normally it's like chiptune, sort of really basic, or lush and orchestral, like live instruments. You rarely get that kind of mid-period.
Yeah, it's very of its time.
Sound.
So you play a sort of time traveller who gets sent back 1,000 years, which is a while, by the way.
Yeah.
And gets lost there, and she's in her present. She's trying to sort of overthrow this, it's sort of a dystopian future sort of thing. So of course you've got this sort of steampunky modern day section, and then you travel back 1,000 years to when it's sort of much more medieval sort of, and the combat is quite static, but in the kind of way that Symphony of the Night was, where you can't attack vertically, it's all very horizontal.
Right.
And on all of the combat is very patterny, if you know what I mean. You know, like you'll go walk down a corridor and there'll be 8 enemies the same, and you kind of get used to their attacks.
Which is
fine. It does, and there's a lot of sort of little side quests you can do. And the game was really involving. Again, it was, I think, 6 hours, 5-6 hours.
The perfect thing.
And I finished it, and I was completely kind of enthralled to the end. They're always throwing in new little bits and pieces for you to sort of work against, and it was a really cool game. So Timespinner. If you're a fan of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, it's just a no-brainer, because it's just, even the menu systems kind of have that same layout. It's like, what? Kind of like a robot named Fight, if you ever played that.
No, I haven't. I keep seeing it on Steam, but
you play it. It's a procedurally generated Metroidvania, which is
I'm so sorry.
A bit mixed. But you're playing that, and some of the assets, like some of the movements and some of the sprites, you think that's literally just from Super Metroid. So. But no, it's a really good game, and I'm intrigued to see what the company will do next, because I don't know if they'll just get deeper into it and release something even more reverential, or if they'll just do their own thing now. But it's a really tasty first title.
Good. Did you play My Friend Pedro at all?
Oh God, yeah, I did. Sorry, My Friend Pedro, Bullets, Blood and Bananas, which I thought, well, this is a good sign, because I was lying in bed and I installed it, and I thought I'll check it on for 5 minutes, see what it's like, and then I'll play it tomorrow, because it was like half 10 at night. 4 hours later, I was in bed too. My eyes were burning with tiredness, and I was like, okay, one more level. And it's basically John Wick without the license, because you're just running around, and it's got this really cool mechanic where a lot of it's dual wielding, so you can sort of lock it in one gun in one direction and then freely move the other one and slow down time. So it's really acrobatic.
But it's all side on.
It's a 2D sort of thing. It's very. It reminded me of
2.5D
Shadow Complex.
Yes.
That kind of that sort of 2.5D thing, and it does suffer from slowdown, especially in handheld mode, but. Because it's not like it's not a jagged sort of slowdown.
Yeah.
It's just the whole game slows down, and because it's so based on slow motion movement anyway,
it just kind of works. Thing.
Yeah, the bullet time sort of. But I thought it was going to be. You get these games much like the next one I'm going to talk about, where it's you know, it's a banana with a smiley face, and you think, is it just going to be really zany and essentially get on my nerves?
Yeah.
But it's really weird because the character of the banana is just like actually quite placid. Like he has this banana that sort of tells him what to do, but it just says these sort of like slightly off the cuff things. It's like, oh no, I'll let you get on with it.
I couldn't, from the marketing, I couldn't quite match up the banana part to the actual gunplay, because gunplay seemed quite physics based and grounded.
It's totally, until the very end of the game where the banana really comes into its own. The rest of the game is very much kind of, he'll say like a little quip at the start, you know, your character never speaks, and then the level starts. So he's just kind of there to say, oh, well, this is what we're doing next.
Right.
But it was really surprisingly good. Again, 4 or 5 hours, boom. And really replayable as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that, because it seems like a real, like, once you get the flow of it.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones, I love it when you get really good at a game, and then you go back to the start, and you're just sort of dancing through the first level.
Yeah, because you can
because you're so good at it. And
I actually did that. I finished the game, and then I quickly just replayed the first few when I was just like bumbling through them, because there were certain points when I would do a certain move or take out a whole room of people, and I'm pretty sure, by myself in bed, I went... and then carried on.
Amazing.
So, really tasty game.
Good. What was the other one you were going to mention?
Oh yeah, it was Baobob's Mausoleum Episode 2.
Is that in relation to Slowdown, or in relation to something else?
Oh, that was just, the zaniness.
Oh, the zaniness.
Like, the full title is, I haven't got on me, it's like Baobob's Mausoleum Episode 2, 1313 Dead End Drive, or something like that.
It already sounds pretty wacky.
Yes, but the problem is, the main issue is that it's a really... sort of, it seems like a really rushed port from a PC game from a few years ago, because the in-game instructions refer to like, oh, press control to do this, and I'm on the Switch thinking, right, and it's essentially a murder mystery, a kidnapping mystery. So the game starts, it's top down, you start in a hotel, and you are a sort of fire-spitting vampire that, again in sort of a Zelda sort of top-down sort of style, very tile-based, has to solve the kidnapping of this woman.
Right.
And on the description on Steam it says it's a mixture of like Monkey Island, The X-Files, Twin Peaks, and you think, don't say these things.
You're just name dropping.
You're just name dropping.
Really key cult.
Yeah, yeah, like
pieces of media.
Momentous sort of moments. And I played it, and it's Spanish, and the translation's not quite there. So what you get is the designer's obviously gone at it to try and be wacky, but it feels like someone's trying to be wacky. And everything is a non sequitur, and people keep on referring back to the first episode, which not many people, I guess, would have played. It's a small game, so it's kind of canonical to itself. But I was playing it, and I didn't find anything funny.
Right.
And like there was a bit where you see a dog that's blocking a doorway that you need to get in. You need to search the house for evidence, and nothing is marked. So the game has got a lot of like sort of 2 or 3 frames animations of like trees and people, but you can't see what you pick up unless you just walk up to everything and press on it. So the whole thing, and when you walk into a house, it takes between 8 and 14 seconds to load the next screen, and the same when you come back out, and the music glitches. So it's obviously just like it's not well designed. There was a bit where I have to sort of get past this dog, and then someone else says, "Oh, that dog really likes sardines. I don't know why I told you that." Right? So then you have to find this sardine tree that's got a monkey on top, and it's like really basic gameplay, but made out that it's really like wacky and fun, and it didn't work.
That doesn't sound like Monkey Island, X-Files, Twin Peaks, or any of the things you mentioned, to be honest.
Well, you haven't played it, have
you? Clearly not. I can't talk, can I?
Yeah, it felt like a noble filler. It just felt really misguided.
Right.
Like it wasn't what it needed to be. Like it's got mini games. Like there's a bit where you see a band in there, and you kind of have to. One of the missions is you have to sort of play with the band on stage, but of course it's just like press left and he presses right, and you have to press right and up, and it's just a memory test, and everything boils down to these really tedious mini games, and just kind of aimlessly walking around until someone says something that you wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah.
And then you just do that thing, and it's just...
Yeah, that sounds aggravatingly
yeah. I will say the one
unpredictable.
Thing... The music is quite abrasive as well.
Right.
Which is... And looped. But the character portraits are quite cool. The character designs themselves, I'm assuming just one guy did most of it, and that's cool, but it just... it seems like they just need to have a really small project and build from there, and not... And rein in the zaniness as well.
Rein in the zaniness. I think there's got a lot of developers, to be honest.
So that was my pretty good week of
okay.
like playing tasty games. So what have you been up
Well, speaking of loading times,
Can we?
can we please? Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The loading times in that are
This is PS4 Pro.
yes, so but the loading times in that are just tiresome, to say the least. But it's quite a good game. So I've basically been playing Moonlighter and Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
When you get tired of the other, you kind of
yes,
like...
basically. But I'd have to say that Moonlighter won out in the end. I've finished
Really?
it now. I have finished it.
You finished it?
Yeah.
Oh, high five.
Well, I didn't think that was going to happen because after the first couple of dungeons, I was like, "This is tough." But then I realised, I understood I learned its mechanics. If you see what I mean, and it's pretty basic that you've got to build up your weapon and armour level sufficiently to pretty much be able to beat the boss quite easily.
Right,
if you don't have that, if you don't do that, then it's going to be really, really tough.
Okay.
But actually, by the end, it was pretty easy. Like the final boss is actually remarkably easy.
Really?
Yeah, but still, really cool game. And so so Moonlighter is like a top-down. I think you've played it, haven't you?
Yes.
Like top-down kind of hack and slash dungeon crawler thing. But the twist is that between the dungeons, whatever you've picked up, you go back to your shop and sell it.
It's so funny. It's such a good mechanic.
It's a really funny mechanic.
Halves, yeah.
And like, so you go into your shop and you don't know what anything's worth, so you're kind of just trying to flog it for whatever, and you look at the reaction of the people in the store.
And it's like a simple emoji kind of reaction.
Yeah. And then it kind of saves that reaction so you know what to sell it for next time. So it's quite cool. So yeah, before the end, I was making like millions, so it's really cool.
It really tickled me in that where like I'd go in and I'd have like this, I don't know, like a bit of broken armor or something, and I put on for like 20 gold, and someone would go up to it, it would just be a frowning face, and then they'd walk around with something else, like nip up and like quickly mark it down a bit, and then they go back up and they're like, oh okay, oh $5 off.
Yeah, it's really cool, and and it's genuinely fun, and like there's quite a lot to do. You get people trying to nick stuff from your shop and things like that. I mean, the dungeon stuff is cool as well. It's quite mechanical. So again, it's all patterns. Like you walk into a room and you can't just blaze in there trying to kill everything all at once.
It's like combat is almost like purposefully stiff.
Yes, it's almost grid based in a way because it tends to have like kind of sideways vertical attacks and stuff like that. So you got to.
And it uses procedural generation well.
Yeah, so
like
it
the rooms
shifts
are
the rooms
different.
around.
Yeah.
So that's really cool, and that's a fun game, and it probably about maybe 8 to 10 hours, I'd say, because there is quite a bit.
It's fine, that's the length,
which is about right. And well, with Assassin's Creed Odyssey,
is this the one set in like Greek times?
Yes.
Yeah.
So with that, I the tutorial lasted about 3 hours. To be honest, it was amazing. Like the whole first island, you're like, okay, you're getting used to the controls and stuff, and then it comes up with the logo as you leave the island. It's like, wow, this is going to go on a while.
How long exactly?
A long time, and I suppose it's called Odyssey, so it makes sense. But it's very much a Ubisoft game. It's very much a fill in the map, kind of find, get icons, fill them in. Take out camps, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's fine, but yeah, and I like the character Cassandra because she's obviously I played a woman, and she's amusing because she's quite sarcastic with people, not mean or anything, but like she's just constantly like slightly mocking people because she knows she's harder than them, sort of thing. So that's quite amusing. And the story's fine, and the combat's okay. It's the usual kind of dodge mechanics, stuff like that. And it's quite fun, but it's weirdly aimless at times.
It's a story. I was going to say, when a game is that length, usually...
Well, like the story's quite fast-paced for a little while, but then of course what happens inevitably in these massive open world games is it opens up at some point, and then you're kind of walled off from the main story because you have to go and level up. And to level up is such an aimless experience. You're basically just wandering around the place looking for icons, going towards people with icons and just saying, please give me something to do. And then you find yourself on like some island which is slightly too high a level, so you can't really go around taking out camps and stuff like that. So you just have to take on like the easy mission sort of thing.
Right.
And then you realise you're pretty much dried up there, so you have to go and find something else to do. And it's frustratingly aimless because I think it could be a really fun kind of linear experience actually.
But of course, it's Ubisoft, so it has to be open
It has
world.
to be massive and open world.
Yeah.
And it looks beautiful, but yeah, it's just a bit of a slog, really.
You reminded me of something when you were talking about Cassandra being like it's obviously strong voice actor. I've recently literally only just chucked it on, Vampire on the PS4.
Yeah.
And the guy who does the voice, it's like he's done his voice work totally separately to the rest of the cast, because there's a bit at the start, you walk into a pub that's late, and there's a woman there like cleaning the floor, and she's, "Oh, hello there, sir. Oh, are you coming out this time of night?" And he's like, "Why are you open this late? Who's running this place?" And you think, stop shouting at everyone. Just talk. You can just talk to people.
Nick Nolte.
Tom Waits, actually. Tom Waits doing an impression of Nick Nolte.
Yeah, like all the voices. The production values are amazing in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I suppose, I mean, I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game since
The first one was
the first one.
Oh, Black Flag I touched upon briefly, but
Yeah, maybe one of them. I don't know. But I played other Ubisoft games, the Far Cry games and stuff like that, and it's very much in that wheelhouse. So it's really just a question of what with Ubisoft. It's almost like what time period do you fancy, sort of thing.
so you can just pick
Yeah,
and choose.
do you know, if you want to do like a bit of sci-fi action, Blood Dragon. If you want to do kind of modern day Colorado, whatever it is, it's Far Cry 5, and then you know, that sort of thing. If you want sci-fi, then you play Starlink, and they're all identical. They're just the same game. Whether you might be in a car, you might be in a spaceship, but
the Far Cry 5 I played for a couple of hours and I just couldn't get into it. It did feel too similar to 4 and 3, and I thought the leap between 1 and 2 and 3 was kind of like boom, boom, boom. But then 4 I was like, I kind of like this, and 5 I was, this setting is
3, 4 and 5 have been iterations, haven't they? Definitely.
Yeah. As
like 3 was it was a real step up. And obviously Far Cry 2 was so weird and different to the first one.
Yeah.
Which itself was pretty revolutionary.
What I remember about the second one was going along in like a truck, like bouncing over all this like African brush, and he's like, and then it's like, I'll just look at the map, but he actually goes, and you're like, look, do this, look at the windshield,
and then the inevitable boom crash. Right, I'm on the ground. I'm 400 miles from the nearest settlement.
And my inhaler's almost empty.
That is someone who needed some suntan lotion.
Yeah, so much like me.
So yeah, that's okay. But yeah, I found Moonlighter a bit more... I mean, they're obviously very different games. Although saying that, it made me think of, like, the way that Moonlighter is very kind of open and honest about its mechanical nature. Once you get it, it's like, right, I can see the mechanics just laid out in front of me. I need to do these steps in order to be able to beat this boss or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, it's kind of the difference between like an indie game like Moonlighter and a AAA game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Assassin's Creed Odyssey still got really, really strict mechanics. There are the mechanics there, but of course what happens is they are
couched.
Yeah, they're couched. They're veiled in this beautiful aesthetic. It's almost like not really photoreal, but but gorgeous production values and stuff. And it's almost like a kind of shroud for what is essentially quite a basic game underneath.
Has it moved on gameplay-wise from the first few?
Not really.
Right.
There's more to do, probably.
But they're consistently well reviewed, aren't they? They're consistently...
The last couple, I mean, they started getting some pretty bad reviews when they were churning them out once a year. But then
okay.
I think they had Assassin's Creed. They took a year off to actually work on the next one, and Origins came out and that got really good reviews. And then I think Odyssey came out maybe a year later, but again, it was pretty well reviewed. And I think they're taking more time to do the next one, wherever it's going to be, which is fine, but it won't be any different. So,
do you think it's going to be set in like prehistoric time?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it really just depends on well, I mean, they've done Far Cry Primal. So
with Elias Toufexis doing the voice, of course.
Yeah, so depends what's next. I mean, Blood Dragon 2 would be nice.
Yeah, I still haven't played Blood Dragon. I feel like I really,
man.
I know. I really feel like I should have played it, but it just completely slipped through the net, and I never.
But that's what I mean, though. It's like, okay, the reason I love Blood Dragon is because of the setting. I love the kind of cyberpunk.
You can say it, Michael Biehn.
Yeah, Michael Biehn is in it, and he's amazing. And the kind of 80s retro thing, fine. I mean, if it was the same game but set elsewhere, like Far Cry 3 or Far Cry 4 or Far Cry 5, then I'd be like, nah. But because...
What if Michael Biehn was in that?
That would be amazing too. You should really just be in everything.
Michael B in everything. I'm not sure his name should be. Quite awkward.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing else I've really played this week. I've dabbled in a couple of... I'm still kind of playing Yakuza 0 on and off. But I've much more enjoyed the small indie stuff that you can play for a few hours and boom, done, and move on to the next.
I agree. It feels like something like... I found the same with Red Dead Redemption 2. I played that briefly, but I found that it's like those sorts of games are almost meant to be lived in for a while. Yeah. Rather than just played, there's something you kind of... They're almost like a kind of occupation for a good while. Like, there's something to be played for several hours, like every evening.
Yeah,
until over a period of weeks, and it's like...
I know someone who... Well, Rich from Games Freezer did that. He completely lived the game for months and played and went out camping and hunting and all the side quests and completely immersed himself in it. But I didn't. I was just not pounding through the story, but I was just playing the story, and a couple of hours of an evening, and then of course I just got kind of a bit burned out on it, and then I went away. I don't know why I said American, then burned out on it, and then I went away and played a lot of other games, and then when I came back to it, I thought, I feel like I've done my time with this. Mm-hmm. Like I played it for 30 or 40 hours, and I could tell it was going to the end part of the map, but I felt like I'd kind of had my time with it.
Yes.
So now it's one of those games I think I'll go back to it, and I boot it up and I kind of pot around for 10 minutes, and of course I've kind of forgotten the controls of it now, and I think,
the classic.
Yeah, so I think it'll need to just grab me again maybe in a year or two.
Yeah.
Like Breath of the Wild did. I'm not as much of a fan of Breath of the Wild as you, but I played it for like an hour and thought, now, and then I played it when I was in the mood for that kind of game, and I got a lot more out of it.
Yes, that does make a massive difference. Mm. Right, yeah, so that's all the games. That's all the games in the world, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, we've covered them all, haven't we? Brian Lara 96, Bubsy. Oh, it's Brian Lara 96. I think the first one's just called Brian Lara Cricket. Tell you what's quite cool about that is that the start of the match, when you flick the coin to sort of see which team will bat and pitch. What's it called in cricket? Anyway?
Tee off.
It's an old 10p piece. It's an old big 10p, which I found really sort of like charming.
That's kind of charmingly dated, isn't it?
So, the other thing I dabbled in because there was a free trial on PS Plus was Fallout 76. Now I've played all the Fallout games apart from Brotherhood of Steel, which was the isometric one. I think I didn't get
cool game. That.
Yeah. Was it good?
Yeah, it was good.
I don't care. I didn't ask. And so when this was released, I don't play online games at all, and I thought, well, it's a free trial. Maybe I can go online and pretend that there's no one else in the world apart from me, and I can just play it. So
did it work so simple?
No, I got it, and obviously the graphics are tasting they were in like Fallout 4, and I was playing it, and the crafting sort of side was okay. I basically built a hut and left it because I didn't care if anyone kicked it down, and I was pottering around. And what's good about it is because everything's so scarce, it does feel quite, like I was using like a knife to take things down because I thought I really want to save this ammo. I was playing it, and I got about, I'd say, 3 or 4 hours of just sort of pottering around in, did a few missions and stuff, and I avoided everyone else as much as possible. And I didn't have any bad experiences with other players, but what happened was the trial ran out, and I thought, right, I'm going to look at this as a narrative experience as much as possible. That's all I really care about. I don't care about like building relationships online or building a town or anything. I just want to literally go through the story. So I was like flicking through the Wikipedia article of the story to it, and you can see the grind points. You can see even in the description. There's a bit where it says, you have to go around all these silos and sort of clear the nests of these things called the Scorched or whatever. And you think, I know that when that happens, because ammo is in the game is so scarce, I'm going to have to buy it, aren't I? And it's a full price game, essentially, that then I'm going to have to put micropayments on or grind to get it, which is what I don't want to do. And apparently the final boss in the game is 25 minutes unrelenting firing at it. So you measure how much ammunition you'll churn through, and they suggest you do it with up to 8 other people. So it's I know it's fundamentally not a single player experience, but that kind of made me think, I'm not gonna. It's almost like it sucks you in with the sense of you can do, but it'll funnel you to a route where it's like, right, you have to work together.
Yeah,
and that's precisely what I don't want. So I was gonna get it, and then I just decided against it and gave up on it.
What do you think is next for the Fallout series? Because I think they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna try something like that again. I think they'll probably go single player next time.
It reminded me the thing when they released the game and they were talking about there being no NPCs in it, and they were almost quite proud of that fact. Like, oh, there's no NPCs in it, it's fine, it's all blah blah. But then now they're releasing expansion packs with DLC specifically with, and it reminds me of my brother used to tell me about the WWE wrestling games, where they would have a manager's mode in one, and then the next one they'd take it out, and then 2 games down the line they'd reintroduce it as if it's a new feature. And it's almost like my brother said to me today actually when we were playing golf. He said, "Oh yeah, they're adding NPCs into Fallout now, so you're going to get it. Does that mean it's going to be good?" And I thought, well, no, because it's still a fundamentally grindy online experience, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to change. It might change the atmosphere slightly, but I don't think it's going to change the core mechanics. They'd have to rebuild it from the ground up because it's designed without that in mind. Yeah, I mean, it was. I found it a bit weird when I played it very briefly on the trial, and I found it kind of weird that the places where you would normally get NPCs, there were robots. That was a bit strange. It was, and they were just exposition machines, so they just like spew out some backstory.
And there's a whole chunk of missions towards the start where they would say, "Oh, you'd find like a what are they called, like a holotape, and it would say, oh, I've gone here now," and it's like, well, track this person down. And like, well, no, because they're dead, aren't they? They're dead. Or you have to find like a list
Everyone
of people.
is dead.
Everyone's dead. Let's just assume that. I'm not looking
The only
for anyone.
people I can track down are like
me and 18 other guys swearing at that bloke over there.
Ultra Hunter 76 or whatever over there.
Yeah, and Clown Dancer 32. I don't care about those people. So yeah, whenever it was like, oh, go and find out what happened to like Ben Graham's. Well, he's dead. I know what happened to him. He is dead. Yeah. So. Yeah,
I already know there's no NPCs, so therefore he will be dead.
Yeah, and what I got from it, it's obviously patched up now, and it's not a bad game, it's just not my game. I mean, I've played a couple like the Elder Scrolls Online and DC Universe, and to me it gets to a point when, regardless of how beautifully the world is rendered, or how in-depth it is, it gets to a point when other people just get on my nerves, or the grinding elements get on my nerves.
And it has to be grind, because at the end of the day,
they're designed to be played for thousands of hours.
Exactly, he's got to be coming back doing the
It's
same
just
stuff
so depressing walking down a road and then getting attacked by like a pack of feral dogs, taking them out, and then 10 minutes later walking back the same way and they come out of the same place. And you think, I just feel like I'm making no impact in this world.
Yeah, it's quite
And I get enough of that in the real world.
So what next for the Fallout games? It's got to, because Fallout 4 wasn't particularly well received either. It seemed a bit of a step down. Like if you think about Fallout 3 being such a step up from Fallout 2.
Well, I've recently I say recently, within the last 5 years, I've replayed 3, New Vegas and 4.
Yeah.
So 3 is still amazing, still an amazing game. New Vegas is a little bit different, but again, still quite cool. But then Fallout 4, it's almost like they wanted to go on the Minecraft thing, and I did play as much as I could of it, pushing that to one side. But you do kind of negate huge sections of the quest by doing that. But I just think inherently, like from the very first Fallout game, the beauty is in exploring the world, and just like the sense of kind of loneliness and just bumbling around and happening on these sort of strange situations. Or
a sense of isolation and careful scripting that couldn't possibly work in an online Fallout game, basically.
Yes. And I know that people say, I've read that, oh yeah, but it's this, they've done that kind of thing. But not many other games do. Like Fallout is its own little thing. It created this, apart from Wasteland, it created this sort of sense of discovery and wonder in a very specific setting and location. And now it's gone away from that, and with each release it feels more and more generic.
Yes.
So I'd like it if they just completely went back and just to
isometric viewpoint and turn-based combat.
Yes, with constant Mad Max references.
It would be amazing if they just released the first 2 games on Switch and I'm done. And Brotherhood of Steel.
I thought you were going to say release the first 2 games, but like with a first-person perspective.
That would be interesting. But I think they could tweak the UI because it was a bit clunky. But in the second one, in terms of like atmosphere, in terms of the character progression and stuff like that, it was amazingly good. Like it's my favourite Fallout game from start to finish. Fallout 3 definitely had an impact, and I loved especially the early bits where you're kind of wandering around and you first see the wasteland, and it's amazing. It was such a great moment.
It's never come close to that sense of discovery, that sense of wonder again, though. Since that, it was like Fallout 1 and 2 were amazing. Fallout 3, yes, that sense of discovery was amazing, and wonder. It's just going through people's cupboards, picking out a couple of things.
I don't really know what they can do though, really, because you think about it, like it's kind of got to have that element of the apocalyptic wasteland, right? But an apocalyptic wasteland is always going to look pretty much like that. I mean, you can't really have too many different settings. You can't have it on another planet. I mean, I suppose with Fallout 76. I'm not sure when that was set. That was set in a slightly different time period. It's slightly more verdant anyway.
Oh, yeah. It's quite soon. It's like 25 years after, I think.
Yeah, so Whereas...
well, why don't they just set it further into the future? So maybe. If you think about it, so like
where society's kind of reclaiming.
Back. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool. That could work. Have it slightly different and, And
then they'd already be structured, so I wouldn't have to bugger around building them. That'd be good.
Amazing. Maybe they could have a kind of... Yeah, where almost like society is almost back on its feet, and it's almost like at a tipping point. It's like, okay, are we going to have a democratic society, or is there going to be this kind of... Is the fascist state going to, implant itself at the head of government?
And then you still have these weird, isolated communities kind of doing their own thing, which you can kind of happen across.
Yeah, kind of, and revolutionaries and stuff like that who are kind of fighting whatever the new order is.
Yeah.
Basically, we've just written the new Fallout game.
Yeah. I think it does need to do something, but what it does need to do is go online. I think they've tried that, and Fallout... There's no point in doing like another Fallout game because it's a Fallout Online game, because they can just build on that. I mean, that's all.
Yes, and I think they probably will, to be honest. Yeah. I'm sure they'll have enough.
I don't know what the sales numbers are like now, but it's not a... Well, it wasn't bad, it was just online. The
thing is about these online things, it's like... They don't have to have good launch sales. They don't have to have good sales. Like For Honor or what was it, Rainbow Six Siege or whatever it was.
Yes.
These are games which were Final Fantasy, which one? 14? One of them.
14 or 15.
They're crap. They were crap at the start.
crap. Okay.
They released in a bad state, and they were kind of like dead on arrival. But of course, what they do is they build on it. As I'm sure they're trying to do with Anthem, although I'm not sure about whether there's any hope for that one. But they build on it, and now like they've built up a player base which is very loyal and love the game. So like Rainbow Six, it's got millions of players. For Honor, they've now got millions of players because they've delivered the things that fans. The people who were there wanted. Right. We brought them in, and now that brings other people on board because of the good word, I suppose. So maybe the same will happen with Fallout 76. So they can just iterate on that, and then get on with Fallout 5 once they're done with Starfield or whatever it's called. And Elder Scrolls 6. Bethesda, they're doing Elder Scrolls 6, and I think it's Starfield.
What is that?
I don't know. Some sci-fi. Big epic RPG. So they got a bit on their plate. Oh, and they're doing Dragon Age is not them. That's BioWare. So yeah.
Yeah, are they doing a new Dragon Age game?
Apparently so.
Dragon Age: The Inquisition was the last game I played, the newest game I played on my PS3, and it was like watching a dog with two legs trying to take itself up a staircase. It was just every time the graphics were so basic, and because it was. Every loading screen was like, woo, woo. It was like overheating, and I was like, come on, baby. It clearly shouldn't have been released on the PS3.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was just really fun. I did struggle through it as well. It was a decent game, but again, I have to be in the mood for those.
Sounds like me playing Doom on my 386 back in the day.
What, the new Doom?
Yeah, back in 1994. Doom 2018.
Let me just press the minus key to get a postage stamp. One frame a month if you're lucky.
Yeah. So what else do we have on our itinerary for today?
We were going to talk about. There was a point on there about computer and console wars, because and this just came from a comment I saw online on Twitter, where someone had said, "Why do Switch owners complain about games being released ported so late to their console, if they're that bothered about it, why don't they buy a proper console? And then the person below them had said, buy a proper console, do you mean like a PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, like something more powerful? And the guy responded, yes, that's exactly what I mean. And then she said, but if you're all about power, why don't you just buy a top of the range PC and not bother with consoles?
Ooh,
and I just thought, it is 2019. I care not for these things. And it just made me think about the Switch. Obviously, it's like the least powered of them, but it's essentially a handheld console. So
right. Let me know when I can take my PS4 to work and play it on lunchtime.
Yeah, the PS4 is a tasty console. It's pretty straightforward to use, and it's got some tasty games on it. Battery life and the controllers.
But it does deliver. It delivers something quite specific.
Yeah.
A powerful console under your TV.
Yeah,
that's it. That's not what the Switch is for.
Yeah, and then of course it just degenerated into a slanging match, and I was just thinking, it seems really weird because I don't know who that benefits. It's a weird thing to think, right? I've bought an Xbox, and then you've bought a PS4, and then we have to like kind of bully each other.
Yeah,
it just seems really weird when it's like it doesn't make any difference.
Yes, and it's sort of irrelevant. And to tell you, the only people who does benefit the companies taking our money, because they don't. It doesn't benefit us in any way as people who enjoy games. I mean, for us as working adults, we can kind of buy multiple consoles if we want, so we can play all these different games. But wouldn't it be great to live in a world where we didn't have to have multiple consoles? But then we'd be living in a world where there was no competition, and without competition, then things become homogenized. And so it's nice to have differences, but that's all they are. They're just different approaches. Like
the way I bought a PS4 relatively recently, like less than a year ago, and I did it because you've got one, my brother's got one, and my friend Chris has got one. The people I made the game with, and I thought, well, if I get a game, you can like swap it around, or you know what I mean, play it online, whatever together. It didn't come in, and when I had I originally had an Xbox 360, and then had 3 that broke, so I switched to PS3, and that was pretty stable. But I know people where the reverse has happened. I think you actually had a few dodgy PS3s.
Yeah, I had 1 through 3 PS3s.
And it doesn't matter. But I've never. It's fanboyism. I don't know what people gain from it and what kind of sense of entitlement they get from it.
It's a sort of a tribalism, I suppose.
Yeah,
a sense of belonging, a sense of pushing away an out-group, as evolutionary psychologists would put it. Having an in-group, pushing away an out-group. And I guess it gives people a sense of belonging, but also, like, humanity isn't built on in-groups and out-groups. It's built on working together, on cooperation, and
like split-screen games.
Exactly. Well, actually, when you think about it, like there's nothing better than playing through a cooperative game. Like, maybe that's the difference, because we don't like. Well, I mean, we'll play a deathmatch, but basically, what we really want to do is work together,
and
either against a computer or work together for a common goal, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, the console wars but then it's been around for years. I remember when I was a kid. Then it was obviously Nintendo versus Sega.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it was slightly different back then because it was pretty immature as far as arguments go. Like, there wasn't really much to it. It was always really about attitude, wasn't it? Like, you had edgy Sega with its kind of black, sleek look and kind of like its kind of edgy attitude.
Mm.
And then you had Nintendo for kids sort of thing. And it was a bit more colourful. And it was based on absolutely nothing, of course.
When you're a kid, of course, you essentially you might be all about like Nintendo, but then your mum buys your Mega Drive, you're going to stick with the Mega Drive. You just because you can't afford to buy it yourself. And I remember having a Mega Drive and swapping it with my friend Super Nintendo for a couple of weeks. And of course, I was so used to stuff like like Flashback and Toe Jam and Earl, Shining Force, and then to switch it and get something that was like really bubbly and almost positive. All the Mario games and the Zelda games, it's all very sort of positive and colourful, like you say. And I thought, no, I kind of like that sort of edginess. But then that boils down to like a few games that I had in my library.
Yeah.
As an adult, if I'd had that, I can just buy whatever games I want. So Retro Gamer magazine, Retro Gamer the magazine, keep on bringing up this point of what do you think is retro.
Okay.
Like, you know, and obviously it's purely down to your age. It's purely down to an individual's age.
Really.
And
Yeah.
I was just thinking that this
because sometimes I see on like Reddit or something like that, like I get a slightly sinking feeling when someone like puts up a picture of like, I don't know, like Vice City or something like that, like GTA Vice City, and says, "Oh, I remember this from my child when I was like 6 or something like that," and I'm like, "Oh my god."
I was 47 when that was released.
I was literally a middle-aged man.
I played that at my retirement party. And I was thinking about the whole retro. I dislike the term retro gamer anyway. I just think that people who play games are gamers, like people who watch movies and movie buffs, that kind of thing.
Right.
But
you don't get retro readers, do you?
But this is the thing: you don't get people who like exclusively only listen to rock bands from the 70s and nothing else, and completely dismiss all of the music.
You may do.
And those people are called Iron Maiden fans. Or you don't get like someone who says, I only watch films from 1990 to 1995, nothing else, everything else is crap. That was the... And they're not called like retro film watchers. So why is this gaming thing? Why is it such a weird community of like... Oh, I hate the sort of, remember this? Remember the Spectrum? Woo! Yeah, I remember the Spectrum, but a lot of other cool stuff's been released since then.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, like, especially in the last few years, obviously now that everything's becoming so digital and it's so much easier to release stuff, it's like the public domain days of the Amiga. So you've got this huge rush of like tiny games, some of them awful, a lot of them amazing, and especially like some of those pixel art ones, like made by like 1 or 2 people, and it's like clearly labour of love.
Yeah.
Clearly based on, say, something from the 8-bit era.
Yeah, so like 30-year-old games.
But using modern sensibilities, so it's got like the aesthetic, but with quality of life improvements that we expect today, which makes them just better games than the originals, those original games. Like, you know, even something as like seminal as Metroid, like a great game on the NES for the NES, but realistically, do you really want to play Metroid with its impossible navigation and searing difficulty, or are you going to play something which is very much in that style and is a love letter to it, acknowledges Metroid, but gives you quality of life improvements which make it just more fun to play?
This is true. Like, save states are the main one. But like, my brother very kindly bought me Shining Force 3 on the Sega Saturn, and I played it for a long time, like a good 7 or 8 hours, and they got to a point where there's like 3 battles back to back, and each battle takes about 45 minutes, and you can't save. You have to like get to a point, and I think it was going out for some reason, and I got to a point where I thought I can't just leave it on because obviously it's 30 years old. The laser will burn it.
I was going to say that was the original save method.
I'll leave that baby on, but I turned it off, and now of course I think I've got to do that like 2.5 hours of back-to-back battles again, and I will do it because it is an amazing game with really tasty music. But yeah, when these like we see a lot of these games through like reviewing and stuff, and you get sent them and you play them, and a lot of them just like Timespinner. It was just like a love letter to Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and it was just a really tasty iteration of it, like a version of it, and I absolutely loved it for like the 5 or 6 hours I was with it, and I don't see why people are so resistant to change, or just to acknowledge that it's okay to like everything. It's okay to just like play the Commodore 64 and then play the Nintendo 64 and then never play the Jaguar. I just find it really weird.
Jaguar today, actually, weirdly.
Was it Tempest 2000?
It was actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a Jaguar.
That pad, I've never held them before. It's the fact that it's like faces slightly away from you.
It's got a telephone keypad on it.
It's ridiculous.
It's massive and it's completely uncomfortable and unwieldy, and also but cheap feeling. And of course, it's not a stick. It's the first 64-bit console supposedly, and yet there's no stick or anything like that. So it's really, really clunky to use as well.
A D-pad, 3 buttons, CBA obviously, but when I was holding it, it just felt weird that it kind of, the keypad is here, but then the buttons are kind of like that. They're kind of facing away, and it's like, how am I supposed to hold it?
The huge flat buttons, and I had some good games in it, but literally about 3 or 4. So like Doom, Alien vs Predator, Tempest, something else probably.
It's
There was, there was one
struggling.
called like Iron Soldier or something where you go and smash up cities.
Oh, they released Iron
That's cool.
Soldier 3, I think. There was a few of those games.
Is that a mech game where you're smashing up cities?
Yeah.
Right, it's probably must be that then.
But you're smashing up cities with the D-pad and 3 large red plastic buttons on you.
Yeah, that was not a good console.
I never played a Jaguar until Arcade Vaults, and I went in there and played that. And yeah, it's...
This is Arcade Vaults in Cardiff.
Oh yeah, which is we were going to do a video on anyway because it's really tasty. But yeah, they've I go in there and I still play Neo Geo Turf Masters because even though I own it, even though I have an arcade machine next door with it on, it's just.
I was there today and what did we play? Obviously we inevitably ended up on Mario Kart 64. The frame rate. And I played. What else did I play? I played.
Mario Kart Double Dash is clearly the best Mario Kart.
It's like you said before, though, with Mario Kart, it's like an iteration. It's an iterative thing.
Yeah.
Basically, the new one's the best one. That's how it works, because the new one...
Is the newest one Double Dash, then?
It has got... You have got 2 people on your...
Oh, really? Yeah,
is that true? Or am I lying? It's a game I've played just ridiculous amount, and I still can't remember whether you got 2 people in the car. But yeah. But, yeah, what else did I play? I played Space Harrier on the Atari ST.
60 FPS?
No, probably about 5 to 10. It was astonishing. It was so... And it's controlled with a mouse and stuff. It's just... Oh, that was a bad game. I played...
Controlled by a mouse.
I played the... I played...
Gold Max on the Amiga?
No. The Atari version of Space Invaders. That game is clunky. So that was another one. They've got Power Stone there, the Dreamcast game.
Oh yes,
Amazing.
That kind of started off the kind of brawl.
Yeah, it's better than Smash Brothers. Hashtag JS.
I played Smash Brothers for the very first time again in Arcade Vaults on the GameCube.
Yeah.
And I just thought, why do people play this? It's just like kicking someone off a shelf. And it's just... I don't know,
I've never gone into it.
I don't understand.
I must have bought about 3 different versions of it and then just trade them back in or return them because I cannot get it at all.
No.
It just doesn't sink in. And it's weird because I don't know anyone who's into it at all.
No.
I don't know anyone who plays that game or has ever been into it, and it's weird. But it's got such a massive following, and I cannot fathom it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You know, like with Call of Duty or Black Ops or whatever,
Yeah.
they might even be the same thing. When you've got people, you know lots of people who play them, or like Fortnite, you know people who play them.
Yeah.
But with Smash Brothers, it's huge, and I don't know anyone who's ever played it.
It's so weird. It's weird. And it's a game I dearly want to love because it's such a cool idea, bringing in so many different characters. But it also brings in people from and like it's almost like a utopian vision of what games can be, though, because of course it brings in characters from so many other franchises and stuff, and it's almost like saying, right, you know, we're all gamers, so here's Solid Snake, here's Sonic, and you know, all that kind of stuff, and then, so he's got all these Pac-Man, all of these people kind of joining the party. Great, but I don't want to join the party. That's the problem for me.
Is it just like 4 or 8 people or whatever on a 2D plateau kicking each other off?
Yes, it's quite... I mean, I can see that it's quite sophisticated in terms of the different tactics, the different moves and stuff like that, but I just found it...
Button bashy?
Very button bashy, very... like, fast-paced in quite an irritatingly random way. It felt random to me, but I'm sure it's not. I'm sure there is some skill.
Basically, it's not Stalker Call of Pripyat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they are directly comparable, so I don't see why it shouldn't be that.
Didn't they release like a PlayStation Battle Royale thing? I think I own it.
Oh yeah, what was it called? It was called like Sony PlayStation All Stars.
Yes, and it was just no one in it. I was looking at the people in the game thinking, I probably finished all this game, so I can't.
It's like Nathan Drake.
Nathan Drake, like Parappa the Rapper.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. Someone who was in one game, I think, Parappa the Rapper.
I'm sure there've been other spin-offs.
Spin-offs.
You got to believe.
Although, I played Parappa the Rapper relatively recently, And yes, there is a slight delay when you press the buttons on the original PS1 pad. So what happens is, of course, you're doing a rhythm game and it's like, oh, missed. And what if I press it slightly? Oh, yeah, that's right.
I've got fond memories of that game because it was a game that I used to play quite a bit coming home drunk from the pub. So, and it's got that kind of like pick up and play kind of.
You like rhythm games, don't you?
I do.
What was that one? You sounded like a car from the future not starting then. What was the...
Thumper?
No, I know you love Thumper. There was one I played when it was like an alien thing and it was like a top-down 2D game. I can't remember the name of it. It was on Switch and it was really good. Guitar Man is another really good one on the PS2.
A rhythm game. Top-down alien rhythm game.
Yeah. On the Switch.
On the Switch.
I'll find out what it is and put it in the comments.
Send your postcards.
Yeah, so I'm going to find out the name of that game and also the name of the person.
We should write down some action points.
Action points to cover in the comments section.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not... I like some rhythm games are really, really cool. Like basically Thumper. Like, I love it. But then I tried something like Crypt of the Necrodancer. Couldn't stand it. I couldn't do that at all.
Really, I've heard of that game, but
which is really pushing me away from Cadence of Hyrule. It's a new Zelda game from the people who made Crypt of the Necrodancer. It's obviously top down, like classic Zelda style.
Okay.
But it's a rhythm game where you're moving around to the beat, attacking things to the beat. And apparently it's amazing, but I could not get into Crypt of the Necrodancer at all. It frustrated me.
It doesn't sound like something I would.
No. Yeah, I'm not that much of a Zelda fanboy that I'm going to literally buy a game I don't enjoy. Or am I? Yeah.
Right then, that's about it. I think we've talked about everything apart from Blam Machine Head on the Sega Saturn. That game, the frame rate, the movement, everything.
Bad game.
What
was a game on the PS1? I was thinking about this the other day.
Forsaken?
Shadow Man. Let's get a bit more information. It's called Iron something. The one which was 20 minutes long or 30 minutes long.
Oh, Crazy Ivan.
Crazy Ivan. That's the one.
Yeah, I played that on the Sega Saturn, and it just fit. It was so full of FMV. They were like, "We've got to fit a game onto half a K of memory." Yeah, just like a lot of people doing dodgy Russian accents. It was. I just remember it like it was obviously like a FPS sort of thing, but the field of view. Oof. Honestly, he had glaucoma. He was in that met going, I really should have put my spectacles on because you see nothing until it was in your mouth. It's totally fine.
A spider.
Is that fondue? Yeah. Constant bathroom. Yeah, so what made you think of Crazy Ivan?
I'm not sure, but I was thinking about it the other day because we talked about some really short game. Oh, it was I was thinking about when you were talking about that game on Switch, which is like only a couple of... no, the one you could play in one sitting.
Yes,
Skelemania. And my mind harked back to
Crazy Ivan.
And I remember thinking, that's amazing. The fact that it lasts like literally 30 minutes.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Hyperstone Heist on the Mega Drive, boom, 16 minutes, done. Don't worry about that.
Wow.
Yeah. That's amazing. £40 for 16 minutes of it. But it's just replayable, isn't it? Mm. Whereas Streets of Rage 2 goes on for a while. It's a few hours, isn't it?
I watched someone finish Breath of the Wild in half hour the other day. It's amazing.
Is it impressive to watch?
Yeah, although it's one of these things where there's a bit of exploit going on. So, I don't know what they do. They do some sort of like special trick where they'll be above like a bokoblin, and they'll jump down onto it, like switch weapons or something like that, or switch their shield. And when they hit that mother, they bounce off it and they launch. I'm not joking. They launch about 20 miles in that direction. And they're like surfing on their board, like through the air. Like they're going so fast that the game can't even stream it in. It has to like pause to like load more, because obviously normally you're loading it so slowly, but it's launching so fast. And that's how they launch the castle and just go and kick the shit out of Ganon.
That's it.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, to be honest, because even going up there with just a pair of kegs on and a stick
and beating Ganon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching someone doing a playthrough of a speedrun, of Ocarina of Time, and they just basically backflipped. Backflipped for about 40 minutes, and they got into this like weird corner, and like backflipped until eventually just glitched through, and then suddenly they're at the top of the tower. And it's like, how would you?
Well, there was
find
the
that
classic Morrowind one where you can just teleport from the very beginning to the final boss or whatever, and just slash his throat. Brilliant.
Yeah, because of course the levels scale up with you. The enemies scale up, so he would just be level 1.
Yeah.
Amazing. Good. Games, eh? What would we do without them? Probably have girlfriends.
Yeah, probably have lives.